Why is it that the moment your heart breaks? Why does it always land on the same movie you've seen 15 times before? Today, we're exploring why women reach for familiar comfort films during heartbreak and what those rewatches reveal about healing, identity, and emotional survival. Let's start with the psychology of it, because it's not random and it's not laziness. When you're going through a breakup, your brain is flooded with uncertainty. The future you imagined just disappeared, and every decision suddenly feels enormous. What do I do now? Who am I without this person? Where do I even start? That kind of mental overload is what psychologists call cognitive load. And when it spikes, the brain starts looking for ways to conserve energy. It craves simplicity. It craves something it doesn't have to work to understand. That's where comfort films come in. Rewatching a movie you already know removes the unpredictability entirely. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. The more familiar something is, the more positively we respond to it. Repeated exposure increases what's known as perceptual fluency, meaning our brains process the information faster and with less effort. And that ease actually generates pleasure. New media can trigger the body's fight or flight response through unexpected twists and tension. But familiar stories do the opposite. They allow the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, slowing your heart rate, steadying your breathing, and shifting your body into a more restful state. And here's what makes this matter specifically for breakups. Research shows that rewatching familiar media can restore feelings of self-control after periods of emotional depletion. One study found that immersing yourself in a familiar fictional world can produce the same restorative benefits as a positive social interaction, which is significant when socializing feels like too much of a risk. Comfort rewatching has also been shown to increase our emotional pain threshold and boost feelings of social connection, even when we're completely alone on the couch. As one writer put it, a comfort movie provides a sense of familiarity that functions as a coping mechanism, offering a feeling of control that a person may be completely lacking in their personal life. The instinct to rewatch isn't avoidance, it's self-preservation. But here's what makes women's comfort film choices especially interesting. It's not just about familiarity, it's about what these stories reflect back to them about who they are outside of a relationship. Legally Blonde isn't really a romance. It starts as one, sure, because Elle Woods enrolls at Harvard Law to win back her ex-boyfriend Warner. But the entire arc of the film is about Elle discovering that she was always enough without him. She stops performing for his approval and starts showing up for herself, building genuine friendships with Vivian and Paulette, confronting sexual harassment head-on, and winning her case not despite her femininity, but because of it. By the end, she doesn't even want Warner anymore. She wants her own life. That's not a rom-com ending. That's an identity restoration arc. And for a woman post-breakup wondering if she'll ever feel whole again, it's exactly the reminder she needs. The same thing happens with Under the Tuscan Sun, where Diane Lane plays Frances, a writer whose husband cheats on her, takes her house, and somehow gets alimony despite the fact that she was the breadwinner. Frances is devastated and completely lost, so she does something impulsive. She buys a crumbling villa in Tuscany and begins rebuilding it from the ground up. The renovation of the house mirrors the renovation of her entire sense of self, and by the end, her friend Martini points out that she got everything she wished for, just not in the way she expected. That's a powerful thing to sit with when your own life has just been dismantled. You can see this instinct all over Reddit too. People describe watching rom-coms post-breakup as almost compulsive, something they know might make them cry harder, but they do it anyway because, as one user put it, it makes the experience relatable, and there's a bit of comfort in that. Even the First Wives Club operates on this level. Goldie Hawn, Bette Midler, and Diane Keaton play three women whose husbands all left them for younger women, and instead of crumbling, they band together to reclaim their independence, their finances, and their self-respect. The film ends with them singing "You Don't Own Me," and what makes it land so hard as a comfort watch is that it's not about getting a man back. It's about female friendship as the thing that actually saves you. Sometimes after a breakup, you need someone on screen saying out loud what you're too tired to say to yourself. There's a psychological term for why these characters feel so real during heartbreak: parasocial relationships. The one-sided emotional bonds we form with fictional characters who feel like people we actually know. After a breakup, when the person you trusted most just proved themselves unpredictable, a character who shows up the same way every time is more valuable than it sounds. There's one more layer to this, and it has to do with endings. After a breakup, the thing that haunts you most isn't always what happened. It's the not knowing what comes next. Your story just lost its structure, and that lack of resolution can be genuinely destabilizing. Comfort films offer something real life can't: a guaranteed ending. You know Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy will find their way to each other. You know Jo March will choose her writing. You know Mia and Sebastian in La La Land will go their separate ways, but that their love meant something even though it didn't last forever. You know Iris in The Holiday will finally stop shrinking herself for a man who never deserved her. Researchers have noted that familiar stories with known outcomes give viewers a sense of personally controlling the narrative, almost as if the characters are taking your commands. When your own story feels unfinished, sitting inside a narrative with a clear resolution lets you practice believing that things can still turn out okay, even when you can't see see how yet. And there's something specifically meaningful about the fact that so many of these comfort films center women figuring things out on their own terms. These aren't stories where a man swoops in to fix everything. These are stories where women grieve, stumble, get angry, start over, and build something new. The happy ending isn't a wedding, it's a woman standing in her own life and realizing she wants to be there. So no, reaching for the same movie after a breakup isn't a sign of weakness or stagnation. It's a deeply instinctive act of emotional care. Women aren't just watching these films because they're familiar. They're watching them because these stories hold space for grief, reflect back a version of themselves that is whole and capable, and remind them that endings aren't the same thing as failures. The next time you find yourself pressing play on Legally Blonde for the 7th time this month, don't apologize for it. Your brain knows exactly what it's doing. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.